If we were to move to 1 Corinthians chapter 1, the Scripture reminds us that God has chosen the foolish things of the world to confound the wise, and God hath chosen the weak things of the world to confound the things which are mighty. You know, I'd speak just for a moment on that. There's a lot of things that a New Testament church engages in that by the esteem of the world are foolish. But you and I as believers engage in them because it is God's means. And I remind you of the truth of Romans chapter 11, who hath been the counselor of God. You think of the fact, I think of our missions wall back there. I think of missions for a moment. That often a young couple, sometimes it's single individuals, would leave their home, move hundreds of miles away for the express purpose of preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ. That's foolish. Why would you do that? In fact, I'll mention to you that I know many a very educated, intelligent, if you'll allow me, high IQ person that has given up significant abilities for finances to go preach the gospel. When I was a little boy, about 10, 11 years old, one of our neighbors come over and visit time to time. His name was Joe Collins. His wife was Tana. They got married on, I guess, a Saturday, maybe a Friday or so in Tennessee, and they relocated over their honeymoon to enroll him in Bible college. And he was quite the individual. He worked for a company that made technological parts in the late 80s, and he patented several things that those patents were bought by IBM. And the company tried to get him to claim those patents so they could keep him on and such and so forth, because they said you could hold these patents and have lucrative ability. He said, I can't, because God's called me to Nepal. And he'd go and he'd spend 4 years in Bible college. His oldest daughter, she was in my grade age, and her name was April. He had a couple of twins, he had 5 children in all. And he would spend 3 years in Nepal, and he would go to Bangkok to take a little rest and relaxation. And when they flew back, their airliner got into some clouds, and the pilot made a mistake, and he put that Airbus in the Himalayan mountains, and all souls aboard that airplane perished. Now you look at that, and what does the world say? It's folly. Why waste the ability? Why waste the time? Why experience the hardship? We have missionaries that have been in and through our ministry over the years that are on the field, and they've struggled financially and they've struggled physically. You look at what meaneth these things. Why do they do that? Because they prioritize the gospel of Jesus Christ. And I remind you of Romans 1. I am not ashamed of the gospel of Christ, for it is the power of God unto salvation to the Jew first and also to the Greek. You want to know what's going to change the hearts of men? Reformation will never do it. Only regeneration. And that regeneration is available only by the preaching of the gospel of Jesus Christ. And the Jew says it'll never happen, and the Gentile says there's not enough power, but there is power in the saving power of Jesus Christ. He can change the heart of the individual that will put their faith and trust in Him.